the other options would be, like Gina said, about 4 to 5 hours.
All right, thank you.
Greg?
Sure. I'm back and forth on, should we go baby steps on this or not? On option 2, the only IT cost would be just during their regular business, their work hours, to put that on our website. With option 2, can that also go onto the charter channel?
Yes, it can.
Okay, and that's no additional cost or just a little more IT time on that?
Maybe just a little bit more IT and city clerk time.
And then, what if you don't have charter? And, how does that work if you have like DirecTV or?
Would only be available on charter.
Okay.
We only have the one channel, channel 91, I believe it is. And it would also be uploaded on the website, so those are the two options there.
Or come to the meeting?
Or come to the meeting.
Okay, all right. And then kind of on what Ted was saying was, if we started at 2 and we went to 3, it's basically we lose the upfront cost of the $1,300 that we spent on option 2, and then we have the additional cost to upgrade to 3, correct?
Well, it depends on what you choose in option 3. If you just want to stay with the single camera option, then there's no loss there. It's just
Okay.
a matter of adding an IT staff member.
Okay.
If you choose the 2-camera system, then you're going into blending the two recordings together, editing,
Right.
that type of thing.
Okay. I think that's all I have right now.
For me, the cameras change every 3 months, and they get better and better and better all the time. More expensive ones, I think, might be overkill. I think buy a very good camera up front and maybe spend a little bit more on the camera, and I think that should suffice. I would like to make sure people at the dais are included. One of the shots, I wasn't sure which one weren't. But I think this is something we've talked about for a long time. Does anybody have a motion or an idea as to the way they'd like to go at this point?
Well, I'd go back, but maybe we ought to first discuss what options, and I'm between option 2 and option 3. And Kevin and I would agree that in one sense, you're always money ahead to spend the money on better equipment. And I don't have an issue with that. It's that, because we have such limited staff, and to take limited staff, and then they're gonna have to, like Gina said, 5 hours, they're gonna have to set up, stay through the meeting, break down. We're gonna be impacted maybe just from their regular duties. So is there a way you can buy the better equipment, but not have to rely so heavily on the IT?
Also, I do like the idea of hooking up the audio to the camera. I think that's critical. The first one doesn't have that really. It begins at the second one, correct?
Correct, yes. The webcam does have a decent quality audio, but it'll pick up anything in that immediate area. The preset camera in the back does tie in, and so it's only what is being heard through the microphone.
Ted?
My belief is too, is you get the better equipment, but because this is a new cost, we really don't have a budget, nor does it seem like we're having staff, that I'm more for doing an option 2 on a single camera to see how it really impacts our current staff levels and their time and their energy to put into this thing. And then we look at down the road and can give it a time period. Then if we do an adjusted budget come in January of 2017, we look at it again to see if we need to add an IT staff or we have to budget more money for it. And that's just something that, because I'd rather start, I'm like Greg, I'm gonna start with baby steps to see how this pans out, but it comes to the point where it's costing us more in the long run. I don't think it will, because I think it's good for the public that they see it. And if it's on the website, they got an easy place to go to. And if it goes on the charter, that's good too. I'm all for spending the right kind of money to start it out with, and then maybe later on go into a higher option. But let's get it started first one way or the other.
I'm leaning towards option 2, and I think I have a little bit different perspective on the program or the software that we're looking at and I'm making the assumption, Cheryl, that it's for the pro level because that was $199 or whatever.
Yes.
So the statistics that you can get from that, it literally tells you where are the people at when they're watching it, how long are they watching it, those types of things. And I think if we gather that information for 6 months or a year or something like that, that will be able to make a better decision if the money we're spending is in the right place, because we'll have all that data there, because it tells you literally, okay, did they click on it and hit play and only watch it for a little bit, or did they watch it all the way through to the end? And I think that's a vital piece of information that we would need to gather. So I'm for option number 2, taking the feedback from the statistics and evaluating 6 months to a year to see if it's money well spent.
Berwood?
Yeah, I'll go along with option number 2, but to get to the cost of the IT person. Now, if we did option number 2, that would be going onto the website for people to get on. That wouldn't be charter or anything, just be the website.
Option 2 would be the website and charter.
Okay, then did I understand correctly that to upload it to the website and charter and everything is considered 5 hours for an IT man? Is that what it is? Or?
The 5 hours involves if we were to do editing. But if we were just to take, simply just upload it, it would be 45 minutes to an hour.
For an IT person?
Just to upload. The IT would maybe only spend 5-10 minutes at the 5 minutes to just clean it up in the beginning, to put a city seal and the date of the meeting, and then upload it would be about 40 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes. So you could be doing something else while that video is uploading.
And that would only be twice a month, then it wouldn't take up any more time than that, because I know those guys are real busy with that.
Minimal time.
Okay, I could go along with option 2 for a while, and then, like Robin said, get a survey on it, on how many people observe it and how long they watch it and everything, and if we wanted to upgrade later, we could do that. Thank you.
Will that have a timestamp on it? Because sometimes people like to say go to, is that something that can be put on?
I will check with IT to see if that's an option.
And then option 2 has the audio directly to the camera through the audio system.
Yes,
And charter, we used to run a lot of things on charter,
yes, we did.
and when we had a bigger department. But now that we all know about it, I'm sorry. And I like what Robin said about the survey. That's a really, really good point. So do I have a motion or a comment or comments?
Robin, a very well thought out comment. Mr. Mayor, are there any cards on this?
Yes, I do have 2 cards.
What we will do is, are you guys ready for public hearing? We'll open the public hearing.
Mike Thompson.
We're going to call you the Gimper.
He's got to get a weekend. Yeah, I think staff did a great job on coming up with this, and I want to, in my opinion, discourage number 1 is playing back webcams can be murder. With some of the older home PCs, they're a little outdated, and personally, I'd like to see number 2. Number 2 is a good start, and we can expand for it. Yeah, this would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Hope you get better soon.
Lance Gregory.
Regulate. The other one?
Mr. Mayor, council staff, I really want to say thank you very much for listening and acting upon this and listening to the residents. I think option 2 is also a good option for us to move towards. As we have budget constraints, we don't want to get too crazy and go with the Cadillac design, so if that allows us to move to option 3, fantastic. I'd also like to see us, with the new cameras and everything, most of the stuff is Wi-Fi accessible and easily controlled from a remote site, so it wouldn't take a whole lot of time to walk back there. You could actually do it from right here from the seat. Also consider an intern from the college or the high school IT department or their technology, see if they wouldn't be able to do our IT work for us. And then, again, I'd really like to see that on the public access channel. I think there's quite a few people in town that don't have computer access, so this would work for them. So once again, I think it's a move in the right direction for transparency and keeping the public informed. I say thank you very much.
Do I hear a motion? Merwin, this was your baby. Do I hear a motion from you, sir?
Yeah, I'll move to go with option 2,
Second.
what we discussed there.
Any discussion?
Hannah,
Yes.
Grunmeyer,
Yes.
Bash,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Newton,
Yes.
motion carries.
Moving on to 6B, Sheriff's Department Annual Report Presentation for 2015.
Honorable Mayor, good evening. Members of City Council, as part of my responsibility was serving the citizens of Norco as a Riverside Sheriff's Lieutenant assigned to the Norco Law Enforcement Services contract, I will be presenting the 2015 Norco Sheriff's Office Annual Report. During this report, I will review statistics involving the more serious crimes that have been reported during the 2015 year, known as Part 1 crimes. We will discuss criminal calls for service, statistics, responses, deployment to criminal calls for service, in addition to traffic enforcement and collisions. And we're going to talk about Part 1 crimes. Part 1 crimes are identified as homicide, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, larceny, theft, motor vehicle theft, and arson. The Norco Sheriff's Office, in conjunction with the Harupa Valley Station, utilized 2 methods to evaluate and measure crime within the community. The Crime Impact Report, also known as CIR, represents computer or comparative statistics. In short, CIR is a well-known management model that focuses on crime reduction. It facilitates accurate and timely analysis of crime, which is used to identify crime patterns and problems over a 2-week period, and is more of a snapshot to assist with strategic enforcement. These are the unofficial statistics used for the daily operation of the station and deployment of personnel. The Uniform Crime Report, also known as UCR, was established by the FBI in the 1930s in order to measure the scope of crime that occurs throughout the nation. The crime information recorded through the UCR model are the official statistics reported by the Sheriff's Department and used for this presentation. This is an overview of the number of total Part 1 crimes reported in the City of Norco from 2008 through 2015. As you can see, the highest number of reported Part 1 crimes occurred in 2008 with a total of 826. In 2015, we saw a 3.8% decrease in the amount of Part 1 crimes from 2014. This was in spite of the rising crime impacting other cities and communities. We used 2008 statistics as a benchmark to track and compare our impact of yearly crime and review our deployment strategies. This line graph provides another perspective. As you can see, the graph represents the trend from 2008 to 2015, which indicates a slight decrease from the previous year. This slide represents a yearly comparison of individual Part 1 crimes reported to UCR since 2008. The change comparison in the last box to the right compares the change between 2015 and 2014. So murder, we have not had a murder in Norco since 2013. For rape, unfortunately, we went from 2 to 4 in 2015. Robberies were down from 22 to 16. Aggravated assaults went down by 1. Burglaries were down from 151 to 110. Auto theft was down 88 to 60. But we did see a rise in thefts and larcenies from 397 to 446. Yet in total, we did show a 3.8% decrease in overall crime. Again, this slide just represents the overall 3.8%, and I spoke about 2008 as being our benchmark. We are 20% under that particular time frame in crime. And we're going to talk about our response and performance. In 2015, deputies responded to 691 more calls for service compared with those in 2014. This equates to an increase of 7.8%. Each year, our deputies are handling more calls for service and conducting more investigations with the same staffing resources. The total number of reports prepared by deputies have increased from the previous year by 38%. For our traffic performance, I'm going to bring our traffic sergeant up, Sergeant John Devalle.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Regarding our traffic performance, 2015 versus 2014, we handled 52 injury collisions. That is a 17.5% decrease. 525 non-injury collisions, that's an 8% increase. 2 fatal traffic collisions, 100% increase. 81 drivers arrested for driving under the influence, that's 22.9% decrease. Here's a significant number, 2,700 traffic citations, that is a 195% increase. And another significant number, out of those citations, 1,070 were speeding violations. 548 parking citations, that's a 73% increase. And keep in mind, although we've had 2 fatal traffic collisions, it's been over a year since our last one. 1 fatal out of the 2 was alcohol related. The other is one that is under litigation and can't be discussed. As for the increase in DUI arrests, there are a number of factors that contribute to that. We've had DUI checkpoints, saturation patrols, basically being more out there as a visual deterrent. We also provided education to motorists at our DUI checkpoints and through our local bars with their cooperation. As for the funding, the City of Norco has provided us $100,000 for traffic enforcement. The Office of Traffic Safety has provided us roughly $71,000, which is less than last year. The grant funds DUI checkpoints, saturation patrols, and other special enforcement details. An example of this was on our recent pedestrian crosswalk operation, which we did last Friday. Basically, we're good stewards of the city's finances. We utilize a traffic index report to monitor our injury traffic collisions, primary collision factors, and citations to focus our resources to reduce the number of injuries, collisions, and violations. We also take into consideration concerns from members of the community and have an email dedicated for people to express their concerns to us. Our contact for this is on the Norco City website under Norco Traffic Enforcement Implementation. Something that's important too, I want you to understand that injury collisions are our primary focus when we conduct traffic enforcement. We want to reduce the injury and risk to any of our community members and the motoring public from being involved in an injury collision. This chart shows three different things. It shows speeding violations, total citations, and traffic collision responses. These 3 years here, 2011, 2012, 2013, see they're the lowest amount of violations, total citations, and traffic collisions. These 3 years here, 2008, 9, and 10, this is when we had a dedicated traffic team. So we didn't have one here. 2014 is when the city provided us with $75,000 for traffic enforcement to cover a 9-month period. And you can see the spike. For the fiscal year 2015-2016, we were provided $100,000 for traffic enforcement. And if you notice, these numbers here, 13, total citations 1,318 to 2,700, that is double the amount. That is a significant increase.
Okay, continuing with our response and performance. I want to talk to you about our SET team deputies, one of whom which is with us tonight in the back there. SET stands for our Special Enforcement Team, and they're very, very special individuals. These are the performance statistics for our 2 dedicated Special Enforcement Team deputies. These deputies utilize the Crime Impact Report and evaluate crime in the community by identifying trends and developing solutions to minimize the effects to the community. That includes criminal investigations and proactive enforcement. In addition, they coordinate community service programs, prepare law enforcement needs for community events, and provide information meetings for those wanting to be involved with community programs such as Neighborhood Watch. Additionally, the SET deputies are tasked with resolving a number of quality of life issues impacting our Norco citizens. These issues often require vetting and collaboration with other department and city resources with the goal of identifying a solution. Although these programs do not often result in arrests, there is usually success with resolving the issue. When calls for service are received from the public by Sheriff's Dispatch, they are classified and dispatched based on the highest priority. This process involves the 911 operator receiving the call and collecting information from the caller. The operator takes the information, verifies the address, and assigns a priority to the call, which is noted above. The call is then sent to the primary dispatcher, who assigns the call based upon the priority and availability of deputies. This process adds time to the overall response noted in the slide. We're going to talk about priority 1 call first. The highest priority that involves circumstances that are life-threatening. Staff responded to 153 calls of this nature with an average response time of 5.93 minutes. This is an 8.4% decrease in the amount of time that we had for last year. Priority 2 involves circumstances of an urgent but non-life-threatening nature. This would include minor assaults, batteries, and unknown circumstances. Staff responded to 3,550 calls with an average response time of 16.93. There is an increase here, as well as the last 2 categories. Priority 3 involves circumstances that are neither urgent or life-threatening and can be a simple disturbance of the peace. Staff responded to 3,625 calls with a 33.43-minute average response time. And then last, with our priority 4, involves most past calls. Staff responded to 2,233 calls with a 49.02-minute average response time. The response time for the priority 2 through 4 calls all had an increase, and this is based upon several factors, which includes the additional calls for service each deputy has handled as compared to the previous year, and could be correlated to an increase of the city traffic on our city streets as a result of nearby freeway construction. Now I want to talk about our Norco Citizens on Patrol, also known as NCP. The Norco Citizens Patrol continue to be our partners in providing services to the citizens of Norco. They are involved in a multitude of activities which include DUI checkpoints and patrolling residential and business areas to help reduce crime. They also assist us in educating the public with driver safety, crime prevention, and working city events, which includes Horse Week, the Norco Fair, and Day of the Cowboy. NCP consists of volunteers from our very own community who proudly donate their time to improve the quality of life for our citizens in Norco. These 22 members have provided over 6,000 hours of volunteer service for this year alone. These accumulated hours have ensured our deputies remain in service and available for handling higher priority issues. Substantial savings to the city with that. The Norco Sheriff's Office will continue to serve the community based on the high standards of the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. We will continue to review and discuss crime with our crime analysts and to map crime and identify trends. In addition, the Norco Sheriff's Office has partnered with other city departments to include animal control, code enforcement, fire, and parks and recreation to identify and resolve quality of life issues impacting the citizens of Norco. This group is formally recognized as the Norco Quality of Life Group and addresses many different community concerns. The Norco Sheriff's staff will continue to solicit available grant funding for our traffic and DUI enforcement. We will also continue to collaborate and foster our partnerships through the community with Neighborhood Watch, our local clergy, our businesses, our homeless community, and our involvement with our local youth through Unload program, which stands for United Norconians for Life Over Alcohol and Drugs. The Norco Sheriff's Office will continue to draw upon the numerous resources of the Riverside County Sheriff's Department to commit in providing the City of Norco quality law enforcement services based on our over 50 years of proud heritage and partnership with the City of Norco. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Eric. Did anybody have any questions for Lieutenant Irwin?
I just want to make a comment that how efficient I think your department is, and you're very cooperative. If we have a problem, we come in and talk to you about it, and you guys get right on it, or you put your detectives on there, and I appreciate that. And one thing I was going to tell you the other day, and I forgot, you may already be aware of it, but the RTA buses, they have cameras on the outside of them, and they've already helped solve a couple of crimes in Riverside. So if you get a crime in our area where the bus goes, you might be able to track down some criminal from their outside cameras on those buses.
Thank you, that's a very good point.
Thank you.
Robert?
Thank you, Eric, for your report. And I think one of the things for me that I value from your department is your community outreach and involving people in what you do and reaching out to the community. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Ted? Well, knowing working departments with little limited resources, you guys are doing an excellent job for what we give you, what we can afford to give you. Eric, just on one thing though, on your calls for service, we had a 7.8% increase.
Yes, overall, yes.
Now, does that include your on-site and the calls for service?
I believe those only refer to dispatch calls.
So it's not the total number of calls, so the over 1,300 additional sites are not in that calls for service?
No, I don't believe so. Those are basically calls to dispatch and dispatch to our deputies.
Okay. And
Calls
then
for service.
how many do you think are criminal versus non-criminal? I know you probably don't have those. I mean,
It's hard to say. It's really hard to say. All I can tell you is that we've seen an increase and we are busier.
okay, but we don't know how many of those are actually the criminal calls or
Right.
or the non-criminal civil complaint about.
I don't have those statistics right now.
Okay. All right, thank you. But you guys are doing a good job. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Greg?
Eric, since you've been here, the attitude has changed. You communicate very well with all of us, and we think really highly of you. Ted touched on the calls for service, and I just wanted to touch, and I'm not sure if it's appropriate or not, because some of this falls under your set team.
Yes.
That when we have graffiti,
Yes.
that, and I don't think we see all that you guys do, and maybe you can just touch base on without tipping your hand, on what you do with graffiti and when you see it. And then also, the other part is with parolees and what's the right term to use for like the Megan Law people and
The registrants.
Registrants. The people with the dots on their head. Could you touch on that just a little bit, on how your set team kind of spends some of the time on that?
Sure, so the set team wears many different hats. They work a different variety of assignments, and they can be called to deal with an issue impacting the city. They can be wrapped up in a major drug narcotic investigation. So they do a number of tasks, and they're very, very busy, and we pull on them on a number of different directions. Last year, we were hit with 2 tagging groups in the city of Norco, and substantial damage through spray painting. And one was in the water canal, another one was a little further in the Santa Ana riverbed. But what our set team did was they took the information that they had at the scene, and although that I can't get into the details, they were able to put a very, very extensive puzzle together that ultimately resulted in the arrest of, I believe it was 4 suspects. The other graffiti case that we had was in the riverbed. One of our patrol deputies actually on-sited it and was able to make an arrest there. In terms of what we've done lately in our Norco Quality of Life group, one of the lead-ins that we had with that was the graffiti abatement process, looking for a way to make sure that graffiti, when it's found in the city, that it's taken down as quickly as possible. And that was one of the things that we all worked on and collaborated on. And there's a lot of value on that, and Sergeant Del Valle did a really good job of presenting that to us, because obviously we don't want our town to have graffiti. We all understand that that has implications, and we don't want to shop or do business or worry about where we live when you see a lot of graffiti, because we know that that draws a certain element. So that's some of the things we've done with the graffiti. And like I said, they're involved in a number of things, which includes, we monitor, like in that crime impact report, which all of you were a part of the review for that and able to see how our crime analyst works. We take that information and we map crime, much like we do with our collisions. We map the crime, we look for the swarm, the hot spots, if you will, like a big red dot on the map of Norco. And we look and see, is there any commonality? What is it occurring the time of day, the day of the week? And so what we're able to do is we do probation and parole searches that involve a number of departments and different agencies that come out and help us, and we pay visits to all of their residents, and they have court-imposed restrictions, and if they're in violation of any of those restrictions or laws, then they are arrested, and that proves to be a useful tool for us. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Ditto. Everything they said. Do we have any cards on this?
Yes, Mayor, I have 2 cards. David Sandage.
We'll open public comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, David. How are you?
Hi. My name's David Sandage. I live on Crestview. And I kind of wanted to address a specific point. Actually, I wanted to comment briefly on the lady that was up about the animal control issue. I don't know what's going on in animal control, but I've had several issues like that, and I hope Mr. Petrie can look into that further. Anyways, my experience with the Sheriff's Department has been very good. They seem to be very responsive for a lot of issues when I called them. But I do want to, I hope the council can take some of the stats with a grain of salt. I can only speak specifically to Crestview Drive because that's where I live. And some of the traffic problems we've had for years and years now. And in the past 4 months or so, well, let me go back. The first half of last year, we were really pushing for some traffic enforcement on Crestview. And the deputies and the sergeant was very responsive, and they sent, the deputies were up there when they were on patrol. There's every other week or so, a deputy or two would come up there and they'd work traffic or make enforcement stops for an hour or two. And the number of speeders and traffic or stop sign violations went down significantly. More so on the stop sign than on the speed, because the speed has always been a problem. But in the past 4 or 5 months, I personally haven't seen deputy make one single enforcement stop. Not that that it hasn't happened, and I've spoken with a few neighbors that have seen deputies make stops, but it seems that it's been significantly less. And so I was concerned about that, and I emailed the lieutenant about it, and he provided me with some statistics for Crestview, and some of them they didn't make sense to me. One of them was that there had been no reported traffic collisions on Crestview since 2014, and I brought some pictures. You guys can take a look at it if you'd like, of a collision that I came across just in November of 2015. There was property damage, the vehicle was significantly damaged. So I wonder what happened to that stat. So I don't know if they're capturing all the data that needs to be captured or not to show really what the traffic issue is on Crestview. One of the other things he said that he related to me was that there were over 374 citations issued on Crestview since they started this traffic enforcement program in 2014. And I'm wondering if how many of those citations were issued in the past 6 months? Or, I mean, that could have been some amount of time. So let me skip that. It seems like that could have happened in 3 months as opposed to over the whole time period. And the other thing was a traffic survey that was conducted where they didn't note any vehicles traveling over 29 miles per hour, and that didn't make sense. I think if you look at the citations that the deputies write for speeding, that all of them are probably over 29 miles per hour. So I don't think that's a statistic that should be considered. I don't know what happened with that traffic survey, why that statistic came out that way, but that doesn't make sense to me. So obviously I'm out of time, but so I think there's something else that needs to be looked at specifically on Crestview Drive when it comes to traffic enforcement, and I hope that I can be in touch. I've had some trouble getting in touch with the deputy or with the lieutenant and meeting with him. There's a number of our neighbors that want to meet, and hope we can work something out to make things a little bit better. They were better and they've gotten worse. So.
Okay, well, I have a hunch, judging from the looks back and forth, that there's going to be some interchange between you, so I'm sure the council person is going to be looking at this also. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Tony Morrow?
Again, I'm Tony Morrow on Crestview. I have a question. When you talk about collisions, is that vehicle collisions? Is it? If it is, I'm a little confused because I got hit by a car, and am I considered a collision? I don't know. All I know is I got hit by a car, and in fact, I came to this council meeting bloody. Some of you remember it. In fact, I can show you the scars on my arms. Crestview is dangerous. It's bad. We violate, the city violates all the handicap laws. There's no way to walk, right? And I literally walk every day, and I take my life in my hands when I walk, and I take my dog's life in my hands when they walk. The other issue is on a crime basis. The biggest crime that's happening on Crestview is on mailboxes. I had my mailbox destroyed 3 times in the last 2 years, and on top of that, I had a credit card stolen just recently, probably in the last month. I have neighbors who have credit cards stolen and charges put on their credit cards of over $3,000. In fact, one neighbor was charged with $3,000. She put a hold on the credit card, and the people took it off because they had a social security number. If you go up Chester, there was, I think, a complaint recently at the police department where people saw them stealing from the mailboxes. We have professional crooks coming in our mailboxes right now and taking our mail. I'm literally at a point in which I wait till the mailman comes to get the mail out of my box. And even with that, they stole my credit card. You know, and I don't know. I'm still searching to see whether or not there's a problem. The hit by a car. You got to remember, 4 people were killed on Crestview. Killed, no, murdered on Crestview. I consider murder when somebody hits them with a car. I mean, instead of hitting them with a hammer, they hit them with a car. And you don't consider that. You consider that an accident. I don't consider that an accident. I consider that murder. And what's happening is that we're having a lot of that in Crestview. And it's totally out of control, right? And it's out of control on Crestview, on Chester, and on Rushmore. We've been fighting this thing now for years, right? And I think I was on TV at least twice on it, and I think maybe that's the answer. Maybe the answer is to get Norco noticed, right, around the community as a place that you get killed in, okay? And it's bad, and it's continuing to be bad. So I hear all your statistics. I'm a little confused. I know the police budget is somewhere around 5 million. It's not worth it. It's not worth $5 million what he's doing, you know, and we should basically make sure we understand that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Any other cards? Closing public hearing. Any other comments on this issue? Second?
Hannah? Grunmeyer? Bash?
Yes.
Hoffman? Newton? Motion carries.
Item 8A, there's a lot of cards, but I suspect that some of the cards are the applicant. And I'm wondering, Kurt, what's your suggestion?
Yeah, I've actually discussed it with a number of folks about how to approach this because there isn't literally an appellate the council brought it back, but it would seem that based upon the cards that have been submitted, that the most appropriate approach, I'll wait till, I believe this is Mr. Albritton coming in, I'll wait until he sits down. I would expect that the thing which makes the most sense logically is to have Steve do the staff report, have the effective quote appellants speak and express their concerns about the project, followed by Verizon representatives that will respond.
That's good for you guys?
Yes, thank you.
Is that good with council? You know what, we're gonna take a break. Take a 10-minute break this moment. Thank you.